I was in the Canary Islands working with John Huston on his film of Moby Dick. And for the first time I was working a Huston picture without Beverly, who had been hired by Dick Powell for his film The Conqueror that was shooting in Utah. Now, my personal affection for John aside, I felt like this time around I had pulled the short straw. I was on a show where there was a legitimate possibility of drowning. Meanwhile, the biggest danger that Beverly would have to face was being given the side-eye by a Mormon for wearing slacks. Anyway, on this day, we're shooting Gregory Peck on a mock-up of the whale. I'm working to get his leg into a hole to simulate Ahab's missing leg, when suddenly I hear Ozzie Morris yell out, "Marty, the tow line's gone loose!" And before I knew what was happening, we had drifted into a fog bank. So Peck and I are sitting on this phony whale, waiting for the rescue party to arrive. Well, after a couple of hours, I noticed that Peck was staring at me. Now, I knew he wasn't gay, so it wasn't that. Not that I would have blamed him. Even at 55, I was, what the young people like to call a snack. Finally, Peck says to me, "Marty, I owe you an apology." And I said, for what, Mr. Peck? He said, "For what I may have to do to survive. We may be stuck on this thing for a number of weeks, and if I have no other choice, I'm going to have to eat you. Now, I know you're married, and if I get out of this alive, I promise I will take care of her for the rest of my days. But one way or another, I am going to live through this." Well, I took a moment to compose myself. It's not every day an A-lister says they want to eat you, especially in the nutritional sense. Mr. Peck, we've only been out here a couple of hours. I think it's a little early to talk about, eating anyone. He looked me in the eye, and he said, "I had a very light breakfast." Oh, and just so you know, he wasn't doing a bit. Gregory Peck didn't do bits. And now I'm starting to consider my options, because at this point we had shot 60% of the picture. And if Peck died, we would have to reshoot all of that with another actor as Ahab. And back then we didn't have any concept of a work-life balance, so I actually found myself considering the question, am I going to have to let Gregory Peck eat me for the good of the picture? Well, thankfully at that point a rescue boat showed up and the point became moot. Now, to Peck's credit, he was deeply apologetic all through the trip back. It had been a ridiculously tough shoot, even by John's standards, and clearly a breaking point had been reached. I will also say that on the Thanksgiving after picture wrap, and for every Thanksgiving afterwards until the day he died, Gregory Peck would have a full Thanksgiving dinner delivered to my home with all the trimmings. And you know why he did this? Because Gregory Peck was a class act all the way. If I was ever going to be eaten by a celebrity cannibal, I would want it to be Gregory Peck. That pissant Arnie Hammer couldn't hold his carving knife.